Hi, good night. How was everybody? I decided not to go with any of the suggestions specifically. Um, we had a few suggestions for what the topic should be, but I thought I would keep it broad and speak about life per se. All right. So, one of my friends and viewers wanted to talk about cancer, and that's a challenge for me because of my life experience. My mother dying from cancer and stuff like that. But it's oftentimes talked about from the perspective of, oh, somebody died from this, somebody died from it. But there are people who have survived it. And I think in our conversations, we need to be more positive in terms of what we say and how we say it, and look for the things that can help someone through a situation as opposed to focusing on the potential negatives of that situation. So cancer is a tough one because it's a bit unpredictable. However, people can beat it, people can survive it. But what I can say is sometimes it is about your lifestyle choices. Not all cancers are based on that, but certainly we can do things to reduce our chances of getting it, uh, like not smoking and the things that we eat, the amount that we eat. Cancer actually feeds on certain things like red meat and so forth like that. So it is really about what we do with our lives. And so that's why I chose the topic life as opposed to dealing with cancer specifically alone. And life is, it may sound cliche, but life is what we make it to a great extent. Yes, there are external factors that we can't control, like there are things that we wish could be different, but in our own small spaces and in our own lives, we can make a difference and we can do things in a way that 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, we'll be proud of, in spite of whatever people may want us to do or in spite of what the norms are, but what makes us happy. Because in the grand scheme of things, the earth existing for millions of years, each of us is only here for a minute fraction of time in that spectrum that is the entire life of the planet. And what we do with that time is so important. And I would say that I wasted time. I would say I wasted time in my younger years. But I'm glad that I woke up at some point and started living my life. Living, because living, as opposed to just going through a daily routine, or doing things in a way to please people so that you can conform to the norms that society has put in place for us. It is going against the grain. It's difficult at times, but in the end, it's my life to live, and how I live my life is up to me. And if I have the opportunity if it's 100 years from now on my dying bed, to think back, to go over my life, I would be able to say that I am pleased that I was able to do things a certain way. And like this Frank Sinatra song I like so much would say, I did it my way. And not have regrets that I didn't live my life to the fullest because of things I imposed on myself or things I allowed society to impose on me, or the, whether it be political system, the education system, the workforce, how it is structured. I didn't allow those things to keep me in a box, per se. And life has many dynamics. I would hate to think that we get to a point where we go to school, like primary school, secondary school, perhaps university for some of us, and then we go to work from the age of maybe 18 to 21 kind of thing we start, and then 30 to 35 years we go to a job, 8 to 4, 9 to 5, whatever, and then at the age of 60 to 65 we then retire and sit down and wait for death to come knocking at our door. And some people actually go through life and that is the expectation, that you do certain things and that's it. But for me, I believe everyone and everything has purpose. So when you look at why am I here? Why are you here? Just to get an education, go to work, and then die? I would think that our purpose for being is more than that. And each of us are unique in what our purpose is. And to help identify what our purpose is in life, there are things that we would like to do more than other things. I am very upset when people get a job because of the salary only, as opposed to liking it, as opposed to something that they love. Because if you're doing something that you love, it doesn't seem like work. So then your life feels lighter and more fulfilled that way. That's one thing. Then what are you doing to give back to your planet? What are you doing to give back to your fellow man? What are you doing so that when you do die, you have left something of a legacy to carry on beyond your life? What are you doing that leaves your mark on this world? One thing that we do to carry on our legacy is to have children. But beyond that, let's put it like this. If you have children, what state did you receive the planet in, and what state are you leaving it for your children? And that is an interesting pool of thought that we may not want to consider very often, but it's one that could help us to bring our lives into being more meaningful. And as I was saying, I was regretting a little bit that I started feeling this way and doing these things a bit late. Of course, I was always trying to contribute to society, even as a teenager myself. But the extent to living life to the fullest, or seeking to live life to the fullest, I think I started to go through the motions of preparing for retirement even in my 20s. because a lot of career guidance people and a lot of professionals give an idea of, okay, this is what you do, you prepare for retirement, and that's it. And then when you reach retirement age, you prepare to die. And I'm saying and encouraging us to consider daily to bring more purpose to our lives, bring more meaning to our lives in things we say to one another, whether it be in our homes, on the job sites, people we meet in the street. Bring new meaning and purpose to our lives in the things that we do that we don't have to do. Because there are things that we may feel obligated to do, and we can also choose to do things that can not only uplift ourselves but uplift those around us. And what we see throughout history are periods of time in various races, various cultures, that human beings work together and create wonderful things. But we also have periods where human beings fight down each other and go against each other and cause chaos and kill segments of society and kill themselves in a way. And going back to cancer for a second, things like cancer that can be beat, but it also brings us to the point where we think about life, the time that we've spent, and if we only have a year left or 10 years left, what are we going to do with that? I'm saying that whether you get a diagnosis, and a friend did ask me to speak about cancer, so that's why I'm bringing it up. Whether you get a diagnosis or not, the thing is that you live your life to the fullest, regardless. Use the positive in it that it got you to think about your mortality and the fact that tomorrow is guaranteed to no one. So even if you're perfectly healthy, there are natural disasters, there are accidents, there are several things that can cause us to die. So even without cancer, or diabetes, or any other disease, life is not guaranteed to us. So while we are here, let us make every minute, every second, every day, every hour, every month, every week, every year count, and be grateful for it. And in that gratitude, let it be transformed and projected out in our actions and the way we look at life and the way we present our feelings about the life that we have. I could say, well, okay, if you want to be positive about life and so forth, but we are in a recession, things are not great, the crime situation is terrible and whatever. However, we are alive. And while we have life, let us make the best of it. While we have life, let us help someone else who may need it. It's interesting that some people who have little are more willing to help those who have little than some who have more and guard and protect that more and are selfish with it. That's not always the case, but I have seen it. And some of us are so caught up with our own troubles that we become selfish. We become, oh dear, the only term coming to mind, I'm going to use it. We become less human because we are so caught up in our own problems. We don't care about the next person because we're thinking, well, I got my own problems, I have my own bills to pay, I have my own mouth to feed. You could handle your stories some other way because I have my own problems. We all have our problems. Even the wealthy have their problems. The poor have their problems. All of us have issues. But it is our perspective on things that helps shape what we do and how we live our lives, as opposed to going through a routine that we live. What I would have noticed over the years is some things that I thought were insignificant to some people that I did years ago. Some people come back and remind me that I did something, and I honestly couldn't remember in some cases. And even if I did, to me, at the time, it was the right thing to do. But I didn't think it had such a great impact that 10 years later they would be coming to me and thanking me for what I did, or thanking me for what I said, or thanking me for listening to them at that point in time, because it helped them. And I'm saying sometimes what gives our lives meaning doesn't necessarily going to cost us anything except maybe time, except maybe some patience. And that brings meaning and purpose to our lives. I see a lot of young people, and I hope some of them would look at this, who question their reason for being, who question why they are here, because they would have experienced such hardships in their lives, whether it be just 20 years they're here, or 10 years they're here, or 15 years they're here on this planet. They question why they're here because of the hardships that they've been through. And say that was the thought process of someone 10 years ago, and now they're 25. They can now look back and see that life changed over time. They can now look back and see that it didn't always stay bad. They can look back and see that when they took control of their own lives, they were able to do so much more, and now they can appreciate the life that they have. And it goes to persons who want to commit suicide. Those who have unplanned pregnancies and want to have abortions. There are no cases I know of, and perhaps there are, but there are no cases I know of where someone considered having an abortion, and 10 years later, when they didn't have it, and they have the child with them, that they say they wish they had the abortion. I never heard that happen. But again, to be fair, perhaps there are those who would say that. But the majority, I'm sure, would not regret not having an abortion. And because when you see the life come to term, and in your hands, and in your household, in your life, that shows them the beauty of the pregnancy that they were thinking about aborting. Of course, some guilt may come in that they actually thought of it and so forth. But I'm saying to you that 10 years down the road afterwards, and I've known a few people well who thought about abortion, and when they didn't do it, the child that they didn't abort is like the best thing to them now. So anyone considering an abortion, I'd say to you, consider that. I'd say to you, there are other options. I don't know the circumstance, but I'll say to you, there are other options. Persons thinking about committing suicide, there are other options. Life is not going to remain as hard as you think it is now. Things will get better. You have people who care about you. If you want somebody to talk to, I am here. And I'm sure there are other people who that you can talk to. Just make the effort to reach out. Sometimes people are dense to see the signs, so maybe you show them signs and they're not seeing it. Sometimes you need to say exactly what it is. Because trust me, if you consider it, I know people who have, and later on realize how appreciative they are of not having gone through with the suicide, because it's a permanent thing. Your situation at present can change, will change. Just work through it, talk to someone, seek out help, and it can improve over time. So you've heard me speak about a whole host of things about life, and life itself, what makes up life, and all those things, and we really ought to live life to the fullest. We are all here for a reason. We are alive today for a reason, at least one reason. We have purpose. There are other people around us who may not tell us every day that we mean a lot to them, but we impact other people's lives whether we know it or not. Which, let me flip that to say that if you are not telling someone you care about them and they die tomorrow, that does not feel good. So seize every opportunity to tell the people that you love them, to show the people that you love them in the things that you do. And I say that every time that I do these things, but it really does help to gel people together and help build communication and stronger relationships when we have that. Life is what we make of it, and my mind and heart is all over the place right now, because people ask me to talk about cancer and different things, and the best way I could put it is life, and cherish life, not just your own, but cherish the life of those around you, and seek to positively impact the lives of those around us. I see people watching and not watching, and then some people coming back and so forth, but really, let us make a difference. Whatever small difference we can make as individuals. I'm feeling burdened to talk about the suicide thing again, so let me say this. Apart from those who may be considering suicide, if you know someone who may be considering it, try and be as good a friend as possible to them. And maybe you don't know that they are, but open your eyes to see around you. Don't just have tunnel vision, but look on your peripherals to see what's going on with your friends. Ask them how they're going, and wait and listen to hear the response, and not just the superficial, yeah, good, or everything cool, but seek to find out what's going on with the people that you care about. on a regular basis. And if you're the one that needs to share, find someone who will listen and talk to them. Make your life count because you're worth it. Every life matters, and we ought to cherish life, and we ought to live life to the fullest. Whether we have 1 day to live or 100 years ahead of us, make it count. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching. And just to reiterate the last thing, if you love someone, tell them that you love them. If you love someone, show them that you love them. Have a good night. Oops, I pressed it wrong.